Eunice, Josh, and I work in higher education and can see the concepts of motivation play out daily in our professional settings and our individual problems of practice. Although we work in the same field, we can provide unique perspectives on motivation and how it influences higher education. During our conversations, we found many similar themes, but with different areas of application.
A word on motivation: drive, arousal, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, need for competence, need for autonomy, self worth, self determination, internalized motivation, internal regulation, need for approval, self identity, disposition, and more all play a role in one's degree of motivation. Defining these terms in isolation and operationalizing them in the higher education context is key to increase motivation among students and the stimulation of lifelong.
Some of the key theorists of motivation include Clark Cole, who is an influential psychologist who worked on drive theory, Abraham Maslow, who is known for the Maslow hierarchy of needs and self actualization, Carol Dweck, who developed the concept of growth mindset and has contributed to the way we view motivation and goal setting, and Angela Duckworth, who has done influential work for grit and perseverance. In this presentation, we will provide an overview of higher education and motivation and address motivational themes that we found in common in our research on higher education and motivation. Then we will each apply these principles to our profession and problem of practice. Then we'll provide a brief summary and some key takeaways that we found during our research.
Motivation in higher ed. Baggy et al. 2018 conducted a three-part mixed method study in three phases to unpack correlation between self-fulfillment mastery goals and intrinsic motivation at the collegiate level. What they found was that there is a statistically significant relationship between self-fulfillment, mastery goals, and intrinsic motivation among university students studied, and self-fulfilling values supported and could be operationalized into practice in higher education context.
In education, growth mindset allows students to focus on improvement and growth in their studies. As instructors, it is important to provide space for students to grow without the pressure of failure in academic performance when we are able to. In higher education, students are learning a variety of subjects and typically focus on one area of study. This allows students to grow in their field of study and gradually learn more as they progress in their degree.
If we aim to understand what motivates our students, then we also need to identify what really drives them. So, what are the inner forces or the external factors that might impact their motivation? Could it be something that is tied to family? Could it be something that is personal? And so, by identifying these drives, we will be able to better assist them as educators in identifying their goals.
Link between mastery goal, intrinsic motivation, and self-actualization. Mastery goal and intrinsic motivation are linked to self-actualization and collegiate context, as Baggy et al. 2018 found in their mixed method study.
Motivation is basic to survival, and that means being purposeful. For college students to remain motivated, they must develop the growth mindset. That means that with this mindset, they believe that with the appropriate level of support and effort, they can learn, achieve, and succeed effectively. Faculty members, on the other hand, can create an environment where growth mindset can be fostered. So, in terms of grit, the question is, do you have the grit to go the distance? And that is one important area to consider when we're trying to understand the motivation of students in college. Perseverance in the face of adversity is strongly associated with an orientation towards engagement. As such, if we're trying to increase retention among college students, for instance, educators must create learning environments to help students persist and thrive. Need driven is one of the areas to consider in terms of understanding the motivation of our students in college. And Malcolm Knowles' observation that adults are more deeply motivated to learn those things that they see the need to learn can be linked to the attainment of higher order needs as described by Maslow. As such, when our learners in higher education feel interested in what they learn, their motivation also increases towards that learning. Motivation is not always enough if other variables prevent our students from pursuing education. As such, colleges must make a conscientious effort to prevent a motivation of its students. The loads or challenges that our students are faced with can potentially diminish their motivation. These loads include financial stress, um, lack of tutoring support systems, affordability of programs, and language barriers.
Adjunct instructors indicate they are setting mastery goals for their professional development. Goals included learning new skills that were significant to them personally and their professional development, as well as gaining autonomy and receiving feedback. Personal satisfaction as a motivational factor appears to outweigh many of the extrinsic factors such as salary, lack of support, feeling part of campus community, and relationships with those in supervisory positions. Adjunct faculty are able to recognize the areas they need to improve and where they need to seek guidance and want to fill in the gaps of their professional development. Teachers who had pedagogical content knowledge and were enthusiastic about teaching showed higher student achievement. Instructors who participated in pedagogical training felt more confident implementing effective teaching principles. Growth mindset helps adjunct instructors become better instructors and grow their skills. The most prevalent motivations to teach for adjunct instructors come from an internal locus of control. Adjunct instructors also attribute teaching effectiveness to areas inside their control, such as pedagogical training, teaching certificates, and internal motivators. They also recognize factors outside of their control, like wage, institutional resources, but they do not outweigh their internal motivations to teach. While adjunct faculty report dissatisfaction with wages, resources, and job recognition, they are motivated internally to keep teaching and become better instructors. COVID-19 showed gaps in training for faculty and required educators to overhaul how they teach courses. Instructors show the strength of their grit by collaborating and working together to improve online instruction. This shows adjunct faculty are passionate about their work, and their grit keeps them motivated to improve their instruction and should be supported more by their administration.
Drive, or an internal state of need. Acquired drives are drives that are associated with external stimuli. Strength of behavior extended is habit times drive times incentive. Post-secondary institutions must provide stimuli, must encourage productive habits, and provide incentives for learning. Intrinsic motivation. A. The need for competence or internal belief that one can deal with their environment. Self-worth, protecting one's sense of competence. Contingent self-worth is based on immediate success and failures. Need for autonomy, and linked to mastery goal orientation. Mastery goal orientation. Mastery goal orientation is defined as having an internal desire to achieve competence. Motivation to learn, general tendency to find learning activities meaningful and worthwhile. Temporal stability, stable versus unstable. Controllability, controllable versus uncontrollable. Self-actualization is the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, synonymous with self-fulfillment. Self-actualization equals intrinsically motivated, linked to mastery goal orientation. In summary, college students require internal self-regulation and an internal locus of control to generate drive and intrinsic motivation. In summary, college students who take risks for the sole purpose of mastery are increasingly self-motivated and have the tools to become self-actualized.
In conclusion, I believe that Walodowski's quote sums up a very important aspect of motivation in terms of our students' learning. And in higher education, what we should aim at as leaders is to ensure that our students do not get to the point where they are unmotivated. Rather, with a coordinated effort, we will be able to assist them in identify the areas so that they can stay motivated at all times.
Reflection is a tool we can all use when assessing our motivation. Faculty and college students can assess their motivation by reflecting on what has and has not worked in the past. Reflection can also help faculty address the needs of their students by providing opportunities for student reflection and applying student input. Administration can address the needs of their faculty by providing space for their own reflection as well as reflection of their faculty.